Good morning, Patrick Molloy, anxiety specialist here again. Slightly different setting today, as there are scaffolders over the other side, so if we come back here it's a bit quieter. Anyway, so today I wanted to talk about our relationship with anxiety, those of us who suffer with anxiety, what our own relationship is with the anxiety that we experience. And the title of this live is Anxiety is Your Best Friend. Now, I really haven't completely taken leave of my senses. It's actually true that anxiety is your friend. So how could that possibly be true? Basically, when we're experiencing anxiety, what we're feeling, those sensations in the body, which are really the root of it, are the effects of our kind of internal alarm system, your threat detection mechanism, if you like. So, and that's been put there through evolution and has served mankind well. And we can tell that because there's still humans walking the face of the earth. So we've inherited that threat detection system basically because it worked. If those who did not have such a well-designed or sensitive threat detection system have died out and have not passed on their genes. So if you are an anxiety sufferer, you have a very effective threat detection system, and it's doing its very best to protect you. Therefore, we might say that it's your friend. Now, it doesn't mean that it's comfortable. Obviously, the symptoms of anxiety, racing heart, dry mouth, shakiness, sweating, and palpitations, sometimes feeling dizzy, all of those things, and the racing thoughts, all of that stuff isn't comfortable and it isn't pleasant, but it's something that has been put in place by evolution, by nature, to keep you safe. However, it's a bit like a car alarm system. If you're suffering with anxiety and you're not in an actual real dangerous situation, it's like a car alarm going off when there isn't anybody trying to break into your car. So, how does that help us? Well, I think if we understand that it's not that we're under attack. You know, people talk about anxiety attacks and panic attacks. That's something I'll talk about in more detail another time. But it's not that we're actually under attack. It's rather that an alarm system's gone off, and it's a false alarm. So if you are not under threat in that moment or in that period when you're experiencing the symptoms of anxiety, then it's a false alarm. And you can recognize that, and also, rather than becoming anxious about the fact that anxiety is appearing, which just compounds it, you can try to have a softer, perhaps more understanding attitude towards your own responses. It's a bit like a dog. If you get a guard dog, and you know, it's barking all the time, it's a real pain in the neck. I did have a dog like that once. It was a Yorkshire Terrier. But anyway, if you have a dog and it's barking all the time, and there's no reason for it to be barking, it's just hearing noise. You see the ears prick up, don't they? And it's hearing noises, and it's smelling stuff, and it's barking like crazy. Now, what one would do is we reassure the dog. We don't start kicking the dog, and we don't start running around as if there really is a problem, because that's only going to alarm the dog even more, isn't it? So what we do, we will reassure the dog, and then the dog will calm down, and over time, with the right kind of training, it will settle down, usually. Now, I'm not a dog training expert, and it's just a metaphor, really. It may not fit precisely. But similarly, if you were to think that you had a car and the alarm was going, you may have had this actually, the alarm going off at inappropriate times, and obviously the neighbours don't particularly appreciate this, but if you took it to the dealers and they said, well, look, there's a glitch in the system and it's part of the programming, but after the first couple of weeks, it settles right down. So what happens is the alarm goes off and it goes off for 2 or 3 minutes and it just turned itself off. So if you knew that, you knew that it's most likely to be a false alarm, then you're probably not, if you hear it go off, you're probably not going to start running around panicking and calling the police. You might just casually have a quick look out the window and you see, okay, there's nobody breaking into the car. You wouldn't even need to bother to go and switch it off because you know it will go off within 2 or 3 minutes and you get on with your day, wouldn't you? And it's a minor nuisance. And after a while, I suppose the danger is that somebody might really be breaking into your car and you might not go and check, like the boy who cried wolf, that story. But generally speaking, it's not going to alarm you unduly because you know it's a false alarm. You check. Similarly, if you're feeling a bit anxious, you can check. Is there anything dangerous here? And if there isn't, you can realise it's a false alarm. And you can reassure yourself the way you'd reassure the dog. It's okay, it's fine. There's nothing terrible happening here. And just allow it to pass. Now, there are some other things that I could talk to you about, some tips and ways to handle it, but it's the principle that I want to get across here today. It's that anxiety is there, and it's there in all of us. The anxiety response, or also known as a stress response or threat response, it's hardwired into all of us for different reasons. At different times in our lives, it may become more or less sensitive, and that's another conversation. We could talk about why and how that happens. But if we're feeling anxious in circumstances that are not really a threat to us, then it's simply that the alarm's going off at the wrong time, and we can realise that and just reassure ourselves that everything's okay. And of course, it's just like when the car alarm goes off, you still hear it. When our threat detection system goes off, we still feel it. But we can just allow it to settle down and pass, and it will, if you approach it in that way. Now, if you start to feel a bit anxious and you respond, oh no, it's coming, it's going to be terrible. Oh no, I'm going to completely lose the plot. What's the matter with me? And you start to become anxious about the anxiety, then you're going to go down a different route, which is where the anxiety sticks around and sometimes may even develop into a panic attack. So hopefully that will help. I will talk more in due course about, as I said, about how at different times in our lives and different people may be more sensitive, may have more sensitive threat detection systems. And also there are things that we can do that will reset our threat detection system, and that will allow us to feel less anxious less often. And I think that would be an interesting thing to talk about. Anyway, so I'll leave it there for today. Patrick Molloy, anxiety specialist. If you found that interesting, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and ask. If you're curious as to whether I may or may not be able to help you, by all means reach out and I'd be happy to communicate with you. So bye for now.